Okay. Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be working with you today. My name is Joseph LaPointe, and I am a human resources leader at Thermo Fisher Scientific. I have over 30 years of experience. I've had a number of different HR roles in my career, but career development and leadership development are a couple of my passions. And today we're going to talk about some strategies around building your personal brand. So when you see a famous brand, such as the brands listed here in the slide, such as Nike and Apple and Starbucks and such, obviously when we see those, we have some preconceived notions of what that brand is all about. And as you think about it, similarly, when someone sees us or hears our name at work, we have a reputation, right? Because of this, it's really important that you build a positive brand and reputation, certainly within your current organization, and certainly that's going to translate to outside the organization as well. So today we're going to cover a few different things. One is we're going to cover how to position your value, how to leverage your network. We're going to hit briefly upon, making sure you're keeping your social media profiles such as LinkedIn and other professional sites up to date, and how you can really build your brand in your current role. So hopefully when you leave the workshop today, you're going to be better prepared to articulate your accomplishments, leverage your networks both within your current organizations and outside, hopefully keeping your profile in a position to help you network more effectively, and really hopefully you'll be motivated to take advantage of what you're currently doing in your current role to strengthen your reputation, communication skills, and relationships moving forward. So when we think about positioning our value, I think a lot of us feel that the work we do should speak for itself. Now, certainly, it goes without saying that achieving your goals and getting results are imperative, but it's also important for us to be able to speak effectively to our accomplishments. Because if you think about it, and you maybe even think about your current team, the person who you report to or your manager may have many direct reports, and sometimes they don't always have full visibility or the time to take notice of all the individual contributions of their team. So really that responsibility, is incumbent upon us to articulate all that we do and all that we achieve. So we're going to delve into a little bit about the art of talking about yourself. And if you think about it, at least in my humble opinion, it is really an art to be able to talk about yourself. Most of us are really, might be uncomfortable doing it. But hey, at the end of the day, we have to be our biggest advocate. So we should always be prepared to really be in a position to give a concise overview of, what we do, what results we've achieved, and what our career aspirations are. And this is simply called your elevator pitch. So picture yourself that you're at the corporate headquarters and you're you're in an elevator with an executive that you want to know, or you're getting coffee or something like that. You've got 60 seconds to give that overview of who you are, what value you bring, and where you hope to go. So a part of this pitch, obviously, is talking about what you have achieved. Now, it's important to be able to summarize your accomplishments over, the last 6 months, the last year, things of that nature, and that really demonstrates and shows your impact and the value that you bring. Now, as I'd mentioned, you are your biggest advocate, and the most about what you've accomplished. So in order to build your brand and enhance that brand, you really need to be able to share what you've done. However, it's important to keep in mind when you talk about your accomplishments, it really needs to be an engaging way, right? We've been in conversations where, you've been engaged with someone and you drift off a little bit because, they just drone on and on and on. So obviously understand that people will stop listening if you just list off what you've achieved, or if you take 10 minutes just to talk about maybe one of the projects that you've done. Think about your recent accomplishments and really organize your thoughts into an engaging, easy-to-follow story. Now, let's keep in mind that it's just not about what you say about yourself, but also how you say it. How do you build your brand past what is just on that piece of paper we call our resume? Well, I'm a firm believer, and maybe it's from being from the Midwest, is that you really need to balance humility with confidence. Certainly with somebody that could have influence over your career, or somebody hiring for an open position, they want somebody who's gonna do the job, right? So again, you need to balance that humility, but you need to be confident. You also have to have authenticity. It's really important. We've been in situations maybe where we've met somebody or interviewed somebody and they really weren't authentic. So what I really mean by that is, don't overinflate your accomplishments, and take, don't take ownership for more than what you did, because obviously in today's world, we don't work in a vacuum. We work with others and work through others. As I've mentioned already, it's important to use stories that make your accomplishments memorable, make it impactful. You also need to get people in your corner, and this is really, really important. And what I mean by that is it's really important to build a strong network of people who will vouch for you and who really know what you're capable of. This is going to go a long way, especially if you're a candidate for a new role or a project. I could give you a real vivid example of how important this is. One of the business units that I support, we were just in a search for a marketing leader. And given my experience at the company, I have a lot of relationships across the organization. And the candidate that we were interviewing, as I was interviewing this individual, we discovered that we had a couple of mutual acquaintances within the company at Thermo Fisher Scientific. So certainly what's the first thing I do when we get done with the interview? I hadn't touched base with this person for a while, so it gave me a great opportunity to touch base, and reached out, and we exchanged some pleasantries, got caught up of what's going on, and I sort of let in to say, hey, Matthew, we interviewed this individual. I won't mention any names. And even before I could finish the sentence, my colleague Matthew, gave a glowing recommendation, and that held a lot of credibility to me, and I shared that with the hiring manager, and I'll tell you at the end of the day, that was one of the differentiating factors that helped this individual get the offer for a pretty decent job. So again, these go a long way. Again, especially if you're a candidate for a new position or maybe for a key role on a project. I know this one's a little bit squishy, but it is true. If you want to be considered for the next level, you really need to think, act, speak, and even look like you're already working at that level. I know that's sometimes hard to get around because there may be not a lot of context behind that, but just sort of keep that thought in mind. And I really do think that if you keep these things in mind, it's really going to help you position yourself for success and really enhance your individual brand. So, you've done the work. You've really developed that elevator pitch. You've started working on your networks, and you're all ready. And this great position comes up, whether it's within your current organization or something you're looking at outside, and you're getting ready for that key part of the equation, which is the interview. I just want to spend a couple of moments here to talk about some tips that I've developed over the years of conducting thousands of interviews. So this is obviously, another opportunity for you to build your brand by really nailing the interview. And I like to, go back to a quote I think I remember Benjamin Franklin once said, is that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And even to this day, I see candidates, whether they be internal candidates for internal roles or folks from the outside, really making the mistake of just not preparing. It's critical, and it's very important to prepare for the interview in order to be successful. And I really think the first step to prepare for, an interview is, we all expect we're going to get some of the typical interview questions, right? Such as, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested? And if we haven't really thought through that, that could, maybe not get things off on the right foot. But by preparing, you will not be as nervous, and you're going to really sound more collected and articulate during the interview. And you need to be able to clearly present why you are a great candidate for the position you're interviewing for. The next step is to prepare for behavioral-based questions. And what I mean by behavioral-based questions, if the person interviewing you has been, trained, most interviewing training falls around behavioral-based interviewing, and that's really based around the notion that the best predictor of future success is how we've behaved in the past in similar situations. So you really need to be ready, for questions such as, tell me about a time when you had to manage change in difficult circumstances, or, tell me about a time you had to resolve a complex customer issue where the customer was not happy, those types of things. Interviewers, we use this method to find out how you behave in certain scenarios, so we have an understanding or a level of confidence that, when presented with the similar scenario or similar situation, this is how you're going to react and respond. So again, I really would encourage you to focus on this and really use the method where you succinctly describe the situation, or describe the situation, what you were asked to do, what you chose to do, and what the ultimate result was. I think this is going to really help you frame the story very clearly and leave that interviewer with what you accomplished. Then, when that conversation is wrapping up, hopefully the interviewer is going to ask, what questions do you have? Interviews are not a one-way street. You should be interviewing the organization as well. It is a critical decision. So do some homework. It's important for you to not overlook this part of the conversation. I know when I go to a lot of interview debriefs, one of the things that gets discussed is, the candidate didn't really have many questions. Were they interested? Were they unprepared? That type of thing. So make sure you do your due diligence and not overlook this part of the interview. This is your opportunity to find out more about the job, about the organization, about your future team, your future boss, things of that nature. But don't make the mistake of asking questions that could have been easily answered with some simple research, such as, tell me about what your company does, or things of that nature. That is a big turnoff. And, don't be afraid at the end of the interview as well to ask about what the next steps are or when you can expect to hear back regarding the position. And certainly, it means a lot to me, and I think it's polite and it's best practice to, write a simple thank you note or email back to the individuals that interviewed you. This not only shows gratitude to the interview team, but reminds us, whoever who interviewed you, it reminds them of their interaction, So you might also want to use that as an opportunity to reiterate a couple of key points of why you feel you're the best candidate for the position. So we're going to talk a little bit about networking, and networking is certainly critical. I think I've seen, though, that maybe when somebody's been at an organization for a while, individuals might take their network for granted. However, it's really imperative for your development to leverage your network both internal to the organization as well as externally. So, again, some simple tips here. You can certainly look at the slide. It's really important, again. One of those types of things that some folks do it seamlessly. Some folks may find it a little bit difficult if they, might be a little bit on the shy side or a little bit more introverted. But, reach out, learn from your peers. Always be ready to network. There's opportunities to network almost every day, within your organization. Obviously, you're with colleagues right now you can network with. Take some notes, ask them non-traditional questions. It gives you a great opportunity to practice that elevator pitch and really putting your personal brand to the test. Again, it's both an art and a science, and the more you network, I think the more you're going to learn. And obviously, if you're always learning, you're continuing to grow and develop, and that's going to definitely enhance your brand. So, now that I've shared some networking tips, let's talk about how you can put those into practice, and let's look at your career network. And again, we won't go through the exercise per se since I'm not in front of you, but again, this is just a simple tool that I've used in the past that you can help draw out your career network. You can choose how to capture it yourselves, but you want to be, in a position, get out a piece of paper and start looking at who are the key people in your network that you either, utilize today to share best practices and such, or maybe individuals who you need to connect with to get to that next level in your career. So again, this is sort of, a simple diagram here. Sort of just picture yourself here in the middle, in that box that says me. You can start, for example, listing some of your internal contacts, networks that may be in the current department you work in, or other networking contacts you have outside of your department but within the organization, and those external to the organization. So the simple message here is just to start mapping that out and start writing down some names. So again, think about who are the key people inside and outside the company that you can learn from and have, career development discussions with. That's certainly really important. Assess what the relationship is with each of these people. Is it strong and effective, or does it need a little work? And, ask yourself, am I able to grow my career through my network? And if I can't, maybe ask yourself the question why. So simply here, just wanted to share a simple example. Again, this is another tool that I've used with folks when I've been coaching them. Again, we find here that Jake is a connection. Jake's external to my organization. I haven't talked to Jake in a long time. The benefit of that relationship is Jake is a real thought leader in my function, and connecting with Jake and networking with Jake is really going to help me identify some conferences that I might consider attending in my field. So in order for me to take action, what I'm going to do is reach out to Jake and, maybe say, hey, can we meet at Starbucks and have a cup of coffee, or can we grab lunch sometime, in the next couple of months to have this networking, career development type of conversation. So again, just want to offer up some tips as it relates to what you can do in your current role to help you build your brand. Obviously, my biggest piece of advice for folks to grow and advance their career is to really do well in your current job. Let's don't overlook at that. So, again, make sure you're in an ongoing dialogue with your leaders and really understand the goals and objectives associated with your roles and how your overall performance is going to be measured. That happens through hopefully a lot of ongoing discussion you're having, but certainly if your organizations have formal review processes, great opportunity to do so. I think it's important too that you have that you really work to understand your manager's style and what some of their pet peeves are, so you can avoid those. Again, communication is key, right? So don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Don't make any false assumptions. You don't know what you don't know. So make sure you are an active participant in that dialogue. Again, building and maintaining relationships, both on the personal and professional front, are key. Network with your peers, get their advice, and maintain those relationships. Step out there, attend events or volunteer in situations to get you exposure to new people. You just never know what that might uncover. But at the end of the day, really, I think attitude says a lot, so I would really encourage everybody to be real positive and really, have that can-do type of attitude. Be willing to roll up your sleeves. That does go a long way. I do know, being in an HR capacity, those things are really noticed. Overachieve. Under-promise and over-deliver, right? Give more than is requested. That really does a lot does a lot of positive things, obviously, for your brand, and certainly, be passionate and, sometimes put yourself in the shoes of your manager. It's a tough job, and they've got a lot of things to factor in. But maybe look at what you're doing through their lens as well, and that might help you identify some opportunities and things of that nature. So, a couple things I'd like to challenge you with as you leave the workshop today is to leverage your network by following some of the steps that I've outlined for you here in the workshop. I think it's always key to ensure that you've got an up-to-date resume and social media talent profile, such as LinkedIn or other professional networking type of sites. They're being utilized more and more and more in the talent acquisition game, so that's key. And again, you've got an opportunity to continue to build and enhance your current brand by excelling in your current role. So hopefully you found this informative. I wish I was there with you, but please feel free at any time to reach out and connect. I'd love to have a conversation. Thank you for your time.